Hi, Nathaniel Gavronsky here. I'm going to talk to you really quickly about a link I posted from CNBC about the looming rent crisis. A lot of people's comments were about, well, these people are deadbeats, you know. If they can't pay rent, they need to go. Before I start talking about those comments, I want to talk a little bit about where we're at and how many people this is affecting. In New York City, there's 8.5 million people living there, right? 5.5 million of them are renters. And that's just the residential rent. That's not the commercial rent. 5.5 million of 8.5. That's a little over half. Now let's look at the restaurant and bars and a lot of the places that are closing, right? In Iowa, for example, before COVID, there were 6,300 restaurants and bars across the state. The second largest private employer, actually, with over 155,000 employees. Since COVID, we're seeing less than 3,000 restaurants and bars in the state, and we've lost over 80,000 employees, and we're still losing them. In New York City, a lot of the landlords, up to a third of them, say that they're going to either liquidate or declare bankruptcy because they're not able to make the mortgage payments because people aren't able to pay their rent. And in fact, over a third of Americans didn't pay their rent, and they haven't paid their rent for at least 3 months. That's a significant problem because we're expecting them to pay back rent plus current rent. And you're going to say, oh, well, we have PPP and we have the unemployment. The president has already announced very early that the unemployment program is great, but they want to force it to go into the state infrastructures, and many of those infrastructures aren't adequate enough. We already know this. With the PPP program, although we found that a lot of companies that really needed it, smaller ones with fewer employees, weren't able to get it. A lot of that money went to companies that didn't need the money, should have been able to get to it anyway, and didn't really meet the qualifications, but they took billions. So we gave it a good effort, but the effort missed, and it missed by a large margin for thousands upon thousands of people. Evictions are taking place here in Iowa. The Des Moines Register reported recently that some of the evictions they believe are even illegal. Doesn't mean that they didn't happen. Now, these people are losing their homes because they can't pay rent. They can't pay rent because they lost their jobs. Many of these jobs that have been lost are jobs that aren't coming back. Those businesses are closed because those businesses couldn't pay their rent. Now you say, well, yeah, we saw these great job numbers. Okay, great. I agree. Those are great numbers. But if you don't like outsourcing, like NAFTA and TPP and all that stuff with China, this is kind of the same thing because you take away all these jobs over here in, like, say, services and, like, retail and fast food and restaurants and bars and all that stuff, like low-skilled workers jobs, but then you're able to create all these other jobs over here that have barriers to that employment that these people can't get. It's the same thing as outsourcing, because these jobs are great for these people, but all these people aren't getting those jobs back, and these are the renters. It's the same process as outsourcing, and I want people to think about it that way. 80,000 jobs gone in Iowa, and the jobs that came back aren't in the same location. Many of these people are bound to specific counties and cities because of the elderly parents, because of single-family homes, single-parent homes, and the other parent, the distance that they have to travel makes it very, very hard. People's lives are complicated, and you can't apply that complication into an economic model and see, look, the model says we can do it. These people sometimes can't move, and the businesses and jobs in that area aren't coming back. So we're going to have to work with them separately from everyone else. All these little things are independent from each other, but they have a larger picture that we need to concentrate on. Do I want to give everyone free money? No. That's not what my ideology is. Do a lot of these people want to receive a bunch of free money? No. Being able to pay for your own housing and to be independent from the government gives a lot of people a degree of self-value and self-worth. It's hard for them to ask for this type of assistance, so we're going to have to work with them on a way to show we're not giving you free stuff. We're just acknowledging that we took your job away when we ordered everyone to shut down. I don't want a repeat of 2008. We're very close to getting to that point if people can't pay their rents, landlords can't pay their mortgages, and banks start foreclosing on properties. It's going to drive down the value of properties, drive down the value of tax revenue for cities and counties and states. You're going to see credit lockup. You're going to see businesses not be able to expand their operations. And we can't lower interest rates any lower than 0, and we're pretty close. And the other TARP program, basically we just paid the banks the money that they didn't get from the mortgages, from all the houses going into foreclosure. So maybe we could just do that now before everyone needs it. So the mortgages are paid. So the landlord, property owners, their mortgages are paid, so they don't need to pay the mortgages. Therefore, the renters don't need to pay rent to the landlord to pay the said mortgage. Is that a perfect plan? No, but it's something to work with. And if we do it on a small scale based on locality, let's do it. All I know is that there's thousands upon thousands of people who aren't going to be able to pay their rent, and they're not going to be able to pay their rent anytime soon because the jobs they're able to do don't exist anymore, and it happened in a matter of months, not years like what happened with NAFTA. So I want you to think a step back. I want you to think about what these people are dealing with, and understand the mark of someone who votes Republican isn't so much their religious views anymore. That part of the party is kind of fading out. What's getting people to vote Republican now is the belief of being able to be financially secure, to be financially independent, and to be able to have freedoms. You can't be financially independent if your jobs are gone, if you can't afford housing, and you're left to depend on the federal government long term. If we don't do something now, that's what we're looking at. I don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. These are our fellow Americans. They're not deadbeats who can't pay their rent. They're hardworking people, single mothers, and people with disabilities, either physical or cognitive, that limit them to the type of work they can get, and we just took their best chance of independence away from them. Let's work together on this, America. We know that we deserve our type of leadership. So let's reach out and let's help these people that are in need, and let's try to work out with our local governments and with our federal government on how to provide for these people and prevent people from losing their homes. That's not going to be a simple task. There's no easy answer. But just don't criticize people because of conditions out of their control. I don't think that's very American. And I don't think Trump would support that type of behavior either. Trump loves all of us. Even if they don't like him, he supports them and wants to see them be healthy, wants to see them to be wealthy, and he wants to see them to have class. And so let's stand with Donald Trump and let's work with making people's lives healthy, wealthy, and let's give everyone else some wisdom on what it means to actually be Republican and want to see people be financially independent and to be able to achieve that American dream. Because that's where a Republican is. I'm Nathaniel Gavronsky, reporting from the great state of Iowa. I thank you for your time, and I hope you will take my words into consideration. Thank you very much.